Right now I am 33 weeks pregnant with my first baby, and I wanted to share with you how the baby kicks have been feeling for me up until now in my pregnancy, throughout the trimesters. So because it's my first pregnancy, I was feeling a lot of anticipation to feel my kicks for the first time. So I actually did a little trick to get me to feel them the very first time that I felt them. It wasn't like a surprise or a shock feeling for me. So I'm going to share that with you as well. People who have never been pregnant always say to me that it must feel very strange to feel something moving inside of you, but to be honest, it is actually very comforting. I love the feeling because it's signaling to you that your baby is okay, that your baby is moving. It is actually way more worrying when I don't feel the kicks for some time. So they do put me at peace, and especially now sometimes they can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to explain how they feel like in the beginning and how they feel more towards the end of your pregnancy. So it is said that you feel the first kicks anywhere from 14 to 24 weeks, and NHS actually say that if it is your first pregnancy, you will feel your kicks a little bit later in about week 20. But for me, I felt the first kicks in week 15, which sounds to be quite early for a first pregnancy. And the way I did that was because, like I said, I was really anticipating feeling the first movement. So what I did was I lay down on my back and I put my hands on my belly and I focused if I could feel anything moving inside. I couldn't. So what I did was I did tiny little mini taps on my belly, and then I put my hands back and I felt and I waited. And then I felt the movement for the first time. And I think the reason this worked is because I could have felt before that, of course, but I didn't, because when I am moving around, it would be hard to feel such a tiny little movement. The very first movement feels like a gas bubble, to be honest. If you feel something like a gas bubble and then you don't release gas, then it is most likely your baby. I was so excited when I felt this. It was such a beautiful moment for me. And one thing that happened was that now that I felt the feeling of movement and I knew what it felt like, I from then on started feeling him a lot more often. But I would only feel him when I was staying perfectly still. If I am walking or moving or doing anything or focusing on something else, I couldn't feel it because the movement, the feeling was still too small. But when I would stay still completely, I could feel the little flutters. So maybe that's why they say in your first pregnancy you feel them later, because you don't know what you're feeling for, but once you feel it, then you start feeling it all the time. Now, if your placenta is located in the front of your belly, then you are going to feel the movement later rather than sooner, because there is literally an organ in the way of you and your baby moving. So the first movements are located in the bottom abdomen because that's where your uterus is. The feeling is like little butterflies fluttering or gas bubbles. Then once you start feeling the movement a little more frequently and a little more strongly, it can even feel like little muscle twitches, but you know it's your baby. At around 21 weeks, other people can now feel the movement, and you can even see the movement on your belly bulging. The movements are more intense and the thump lasts longer, if that makes sense. They're not as jittery, they almost feel more controlled, like a thump that you can see bulging out of your belly. Once you get to about 30 weeks, the kicks start to feel even more intense. And because around this time the baby positions himself usually with his head down, you feel pressure under your ribs because that's where his limbs are. This is a good sign that your baby is in a good position. Sometimes the movement feels more like a pressure, sometimes it's very strong because he is repositioning, and sometimes it feels like my baby is literally stretching out this way with his legs here and his arms here and pushing. You can even see on my belly going like this. I don't know why this is, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but one thing I have noticed is whenever I lie down on my back, it's not really a recommended position to be in the third trimester when your belly is heavy, so I don't do it often, but if I lie down on my back, he starts kicking like crazy every time. And one thing I've read that was quite interesting is that when you're moving around, it's almost like your baby is being rocked, and that relaxes them and makes them sleep more, rather than when you go into rest mode and then it's still in there. And you think of a baby, they like movement. You rock them, you move them in their pram, you put them into a swing with movement. They love movement. So when you stop moving yourself, the baby is like, okay, what's going on here? Where's the movement gone? And then they start moving, they wake up, maybe they're a little more restless, they like the movement. So I can definitely say that from my experience, that is true. Whenever I lie down to relax by the TV, that's when he is the most active. However, at night, he really does not move too much. I always sleep through the night fine. I have never woken up from strong movement from him. And my other mama friends say the same thing, that they don't feel movement in the night. Or maybe we are just sleeping heavily and can't feel them, but they're kicking at night. Another movement that a baby can do that actually worried me in the very beginning because I was not sure what was going on, but my doctor reassured me that he is just hiccuping. It literally feels like a thump every 3 seconds in the same location for about 10 to 15 minutes. This is just the baby hiccuping, and it is very normal for the baby to hiccup in the womb. Sometimes my baby will hiccup 3 times in one day, sometimes not at all. I hope it doesn't make them feel too uncomfortable. It's kind of cute to feel, but also a little like, aw. So now at 33 weeks, the movements are getting kind of intense sometimes. Sometimes if I am doing something, the kicks are so strong that I need to stop and I need to like stretch my body, because I feel like I need to give him more space to move around or reposition or whatever he's doing in there. I need to almost support the movement that he's doing. So I still have over a month to go. I wonder how the movement is going to change over week 40 if I get to week 40. But yeah, that has been my experience with my baby kicks and a little explanation on how they feel like. Just for context, my baby right now is the size of a butternut squash. So imagine that moving around in you. It's almost like a bunny hopping around inside you. Bunnies have strong feet, and so does a 33-week-old baby. Let me know where you are in your pregnancy and if you are waiting for your kicks, or how they have felt like for you if you've already experienced them. And thank you for watching. If you found this video at all helpful, consider leaving me a like, and I will see you in the next video.